Hi everyone, this is Whitney with my week one discussion forum post, answering the three questions. Question one being about motivation. A big motivator for me in learning to increase my intercultural communication skills is that for when I work in a school, and I feel like that's such a big part of understanding and working well with children is you have to be able to work well with them no matter the background they come from. And one thing that really kind of got me thinking about is that I grew up a good portion of my life in Eugene, which is a larger, much more diverse city, being around a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds and lifestyles and beliefs and all those things. And that meant interacting with people who um, were different from me. Now I live in a small rural town, and I've noticed a really big difference in how people in smaller communities communicate. So I think so much of that is because they have fewer opportunities to interact with people from different backgrounds or cultures, or who have different perspectives. Because of that, like I see a deficit almost in the people in the town that I live in's ability or comfort level when it comes to communicating with people who have different beliefs or opinions than they do. And I think that that lack of exposure causes a lot of misunderstandings. And it's not necessarily because people are intentionally disrespectful, but because they simply haven't experienced life outside the bubble that is this town and the culture of this town. Um, so yeah, so increasing my intercultural communication is important for me personally and professionally, because I work with children and families, and I think it's important to be able to connect with them. And then question two, asking about the media echo chamber and the filter bubble. This section really got me thinking about algorithms and, that sensation of I was just talking about that and now I'm getting ads on my Facebook or whatever it is. Social media platforms and search engines really use those algorithms to show us the content that they think that we are going to like the most and engage with the most. The problem with that is that it just keeps feeding us the information that reinforces what we already believe or what we already think we know. And that's why we're clicking on it. And over time, that can create that filter bubble where most of the information that you're seeing reflects the same viewpoints because that's what the internet has already figured out that you like. I've definitely experienced this, and I would think that one way to filter, or sorry, to counter the filter bubble is to go out of your way to intentionally seek out different perspectives. Um, and that might mean following people on social media who have different opinions or backgrounds, which also sounds just kind of like rage baiting yourself. But I also think that using that to educate yourself is very important. Another way that I thought for me personally is to actually watch the news, and because that's something I don't do very often. I don't watch the news, I don't read the newspaper, but watching the news or getting your news from multiple sources, not just getting it online. And question three about cultural humility, sorry, not humidity. Um, in the lecture, it talked about cultural humility, which I think is really like an important concept. One thing that stood out to me is the idea that it's um, impossible to learn everything about every culture. It's impossible to learn everything about anything. Even if we study and learn about something for years and years and years, and we think that we've mastered it, it doesn't mean that we will. Every person is still it a different person, that they have their own individual experiences. So in a culture where people want to become experts, I think that humility reminds us to stay curious and open instead of assuming things. Um yeah, and for me continuing to grow in my cultural humility means listening more and asking questions. And this made me almost think of my coworkers. Like I mentioned, I live in a very small town, and our opinions differ a lot on how we do our work. And I find myself frustrated and often telling my boss things like, my frustration comes from the fact that I think is common sense, and I need to suspend that judgment and realize that I'm communicating with someone who has lived a completely different life than me, who was raised a completely different way than me, who went to completely different schools than me, and everything they've learned about how to interact with people has been completely different than me. So, yeah, I think that could build stronger relationships and just a better relationships with everyone in life. Um, I think that's it. I think I answered all the questions. Thank you guys and have a good day.